Welcome to Brash Sports, episode 68, brought to you this week by Brash Sandercoot. Tired of being overweight, but not yet ready to give up unhealthy food or start a workout routine? Then Brash Sandercoot is the cop-out for you. At only $500 per weekly injection, Brash Sandercoot is the easiest way to starve your way to a normal, comfortable weight. Ask your doctor if Brash Sandercoot is right for you, to which they'll respond, sure, if that's what you're willing to pay for. And don't forget to use promo code CHEATER to save 5%. Today on Brash Sports, we will recap Week 6 of the NFL season. Daniel will get us ready for the long NHL season ahead in his all-new segment, Hockey Tonk. We'll play another round of Devil's Advocate, make our Week 7 picks in rapid-fire mode, and I'll see us out with a fresh Brash parlay. You won't want to miss it. But first, real quick, got to update our loyal listeners and viewers, of the ongoing contract dispute with our fellow team member here at Brash, Josh. The negotiations continue. The saga continues. They have not yet reached a deal. So it looks like for the foreseeable future, we will still be without Josh until they can come to an agreement on the details of that contract, which I'm sure will be a big one. At the end of the day, he'll most likely be making double what I'm making, and I should probably start thinking of a holdout myself. But in the meantime, we are going to welcome back Daniel as our co-host this week. Hello. He returns once again to help us out so we can get this thing rolling, or keep it rolling, rather. Yeah. So Daniel, welcome back, buddy. Good to see you again.
Always good to be back.
And I guess we'll just jump right in here. I know you have your hockey discussion that you want to get to. I'm not going to be too helpful on that and not too much input, but I'll let you do what you do because you know that sport a lot better than I. So we will eventually get to that. But first, let's just recap our NFL Week 6. I know it seems like it's been an eternity, even though it's only been 6 days, but we'll start off with last week's Thursday night football game where Brock Purdy threw for 3 touchdowns and by the way, Daniel, feel free to jump in at any moment if you got on any particular game here. Mm-hmm. Brock Purdy did throw for 3 touchdowns and a comfortable 36-24 victory in Seattle. The Seahawks, they lost their 3rd straight game at home. Not looking good for those Seahawks. They seem to be floundering a little bit. The Commanders' win streak that came to an end at 4 in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry did what they do, and the Ravens beat Washington 30-23. That one, Commanders were never really in it. It was, the score kind of shows it was a close game, but I think the Ravens were they were comfortable. They were just kind of going with the motions. Our defense, our leaky defense, could not stop them. So they cruised to a 30-23 victory. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna shed light on it. It is what it is. The better team won. Right. Caleb Williams, he continued his impressive run in London, out of all places, passing for 4 touchdowns against the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bears win in a blowout, 35-16. Not good to be a Jags fan right now.
No, that's a bad football team.
It's not fun to watch. And they have another London game coming up tomorrow. The Packers, they dominated in Lambeau, beating the Cardinals 34-13. Cardinals also in a tough run. Jordan Love, he tallied himself a 4-touchdown game, and he looked like the truth in that one, but starting to look like everybody looks like the truth against the Arizona defense. Anthony Richardson, he's finally healthy. But the Colts started Flacco anyway, so they beat the Titans 20-17. Good move on their part. I actually had picked the Titans to get the win here because I heard they were starting Richardson. And then all of a sudden they threw a curveball at me, and it was too late for me to swap that pick out because I said if they start Flacco, he'll keep his hot streak going, and they'll get that win. Close one, but they get that divisional win. Drake May, he got his first NFL start against the Houston Texans. He threw for 3 touchdowns. But so did C.J. Stroud. The Texans, they boat raced the Pats in Foxborough 41-21. The Patriots just have so many holes they need to fill. But It looks like, by all accounts, even though it was just 1 start, they may have found their quarterback of the future. He threw 3 interceptions, which countered his 3 touchdowns. But 3 TDs in your first NFL start, quite impressive. Especially against a contender in the Houston Texans. Tampa Bay, They put up a 50 burger in the Big Easy. They beat the flailing New Orleans Saints 51-27, and Baker is making a strong case for MVP. Look out. I thought you had something you wanted to jump in there.
No, yeah, Baker Mayfield it's incredible, his resurgence. I think I agree. I think he's definitely in that conversation at this point for MVP. I mean, really good.
Yeah, he's a shocking pick. I mean, that would have been one if you put some money on it. You'd be looking quite wise at the moment. The Eagles, they squeaked by the Cleveland Browns in Philly 20-16. Not much to talk about there other than their Sirianni jawing at his own fans. I mean, that guy, he's got a screw loose. There's something seriously wrong with him. We'll touch on that, the head coaching situation in Philly a little later on. The Chargers, they held on to beat the Broncos at Mile High 23-16. Again, not a whole lot there. I mean, you got to, I don't know. I mean, you got to give to Bo Nix. He's doing what he can do. He looks like he's getting better every game. And we did just have that Thursday night game that we will talk about a little bit more when we get to our picks. And the Chargers, it seems like every time they win, they're just kind of squeaking by. So who knows? I don't know what to make of the Chargers just yet. They're unpredictable.
They need to use Ladd McConkey more. That's what I think. But,
is that a Georgia? That's a Georgia.
That's just me being a Georgia fan.
Of course. Justin Fields only completed 14 passes, but it didn't matter because the Steelers were playing the Raiders, and they got the dub in Vegas, 32-13. Their defense is a force to be reckoned with. As long as TJ Watt's on the field, I think the Steelers have a chance every single week, to be completely honest with you. America's Game of the Week. Not quite. The Lions spoiled Jerry Jones' birthday, annihilating the Cowboys in Dallas, 47-9. And boy, after watching my Skins lose against the Ravens, that certainly put a nice smirk on my face. It's a feel-good medicine when you can watch the Cowboys get embarrassed in front of their home crowd.
They have not won a home game this year. That's crazy. They're 0-3 at home. They're unbeaten on the road, but they're 0-3 at home, and that's just insane to me that they're doing. But they're in trouble, I think.
Oh yeah,
they're in big trouble.
Don't buy stock in the Cowboys now. Whatever you do, you will regret it. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, they brought their win streak to 3, beating the Panthers 38-20 in Charlotte. I mean, again, Panthers are the Panthers. I think, every team minus probably, the Jaguars and the Patriots and the Broncos really should have a chance again. Every team should beat them except for those few teams. But Kirk Cousins has been impressive, man. They've really been clicking in Atlanta. So good for the Falcons getting that divisional win. Sunday Night Football was the Bengals and the Giants, and this was certainly one to miss because it was a snooze fest, at least in my opinion. Since he got lucky too. Many opportunities there for the Giants to get back in that one. And in some cases, you could look at it as steal a victory because even though the Bengals were moving the ball easier, overall, first of all, let me say the Giants' defense is not bad. Okay, they're a middle of the road to above average defense. And they showed it against the Bengals because after that first drive, they really slowed things down for the Cincy. But at the end of the day, the better overall team, I think, did get the win at 17-7 in MetLife. So another primetime game, and the final primetime game here was Monday Night Football, and Aaron Rodgers. He completed his 4th career Hail Mary. I did witness that as time expired in the first half. It's so funny, too, because they were showing all the other Hail Marys he had completed before. And I might have it wrong here. Maybe that was his 5th one because it seemed like they were showing quite a few of them. And but after that, they went into the locker room. He remembered he played for the Jets. So they ended up losing to the Bills 23-20 in a sloppy Monday night matchup. Both primetime games, Sunday night and Monday night. not too fun to watch. But we'll see now that he finally has Devontae. So there are no brash sports page to get to today. So any thoughts on Devontae going to the Jets?
I think it's a desperate move. Aaron Rodgers is trying to he's squeezing blood out of a turnip, basically. He's trying to get as much production out of his offense as he can. And, when you don't have an offensive line or a shaky offensive line at best, I just don't know what they can do more we'll see what he can do. It'll be interesting to see, but the Jets defense keeps him in games.
Yep.
The defense is good enough, but it's the offense that's the biggest problem for them. They're just not consistent, and Aaron Rodgers is throwing picks more than he has at any point in his career. So unless he cleans that up, they're not really going to be that competitive down the stretch. And I think it's a stretch right now to say they're going to make the playoffs. They're a struggling football team for sure.
I'm terrible at gambling, as most people that know me know, and people that watch and listen to our podcast know. I am don't take my advice. However, I'd put everything I got that the Jets aren't going to the playoffs. That is right. Not a playoff team.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
They're more than a stellar wide receiver away from being a contender, even making a run for the playoffs. So, sorry. They lucked out a little bit being in that division.
Yeah.
That gives them a little bit of hope because the Bills are iffy overall, and the Dolphins are, their season's pretty much done. And the Pats, come on. But I still don't in the AFC can't take the Jets seriously. But
if you think that Aaron Rodgers didn't have influence firing that coach, you're dreaming. So he can deny it all he wants. The writing's on the wall.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows, Daniel, but nobody knows the NHL quite like you. So I know you wanted to earlier weeks ago, before the season actually kicked off, you wanted to do a preview, but hey, we're still early enough in the year. By the way, Caps on a surprising 2-game win streak against 2 undefeated teams when they played them. So I'm sure you're feeling good about that.
2 teams that are slated to be some of the top teams in the West. It's amazing how Carberry's system, the Caps are starting to believe in that. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Caps later on. But thanks for having me on and to talk about this.
So. Yeah, well, later on. Let's do it right now. Let's get to Daniel's Hockey Tonk. Hit the music.
At least it's not hockey tour, right?
Yeah, exactly. We had to make a choice. We went with Tonk over Tua, but yes.
Yeah. Well, then you have to pay the licensing. You don't want that either, Yeah.
We're on a tight
budget. So the way I'm going to go about the preview, yes, the season's 2 weeks in, but that's what we do here, right?
Yeah, that's how we roll.
So I'm going to go through each division, kind of tell you what my take on where things are going to go, and we can definitely take a look at what's going on right now. And the question is, are the current standings going to be what it ends up being? You've got a couple of surprises so far. New Jersey is just shooting out of the gate in the Metropolitan. Of course, the Florida Panthers doing what they do as the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Atlantic. Surprisingly, Detroit is struggling in the Atlantic at this point. And Nashville, a team everybody picks to be a playoff team, has lost their first 4 games and is yet to register. We all knew San Jose was going to be really bad, and they are, they actually have 2 points, though. It's crazy. And then the Calgary Flames are a surprise out of the gate too. So, but we'll talk a little bit more about the Atlantic Division, where the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers are. I still think they're the team to beat. They didn't really lose a whole lot in free agency and re-signing. They're pretty solid. They have solid goaltending. You know, their top three lines are some of the best in hockey. And so far, they're showing that they are a team to be reckoned with, and I think they're going to be a tough team to dethrone in the Atlantic. There are two teams though that can battle for playoff position, but only one team I think that can actually battle Florida for the division. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have solidified their goaltending. I think that is going to carry them pretty far, and they might actually make a decent run in the playoffs this year. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I definitely watch out for Toronto and Boston. They're always in the mix as far as playoff teams in the Atlantic. Tampa, I think, has lost a little bit of a step. You know, of course, Stamkos going to Nashville didn't help matters. But they're teetering on the line, I think, between wild card and regular. I think they'll make the playoffs, but they're kind of teetering on that line. They have to stay healthy this year. That was a kind of a problem with Tampa last year. Is toward the end of the season, they got some pretty key injuries that really hurt them. But Tampa's still going to be right there. Ottawa and Montreal are going to be very much improved. I don't think they're playoff teams yet. But who knows? They could surprise you. But they will be tougher teams to play this year in the Atlantic. And then Detroit and Buffalo. I think a lot of people pick Detroit in the playoffs. I just don't see it yet. I hope they prove. It'd be great if they prove me wrong. But I just think they're a few seasons away, as well as Buffalo, from being in serious playoff contention. So we'll see what happens there. But as far as in the Atlantic, I think Florida is the team to beat. And then in the Metropolitan Division, you've got the New York Rangers still looking like a juggernaut with Shesterkin in net. I think he's the overwhelming Vezina favorite this year. I mean, he's a beast. But we've got a couple other goaltenders in the Metro that are probably going to battle him as well. But New Jersey, I think, is going to be the surprise of the entire NHL. They are much improved. They are fast. They are young. They added great offseason's additions. Markstrom is a huge upgrade in net for them. Brett Pesky and Brendan Dillon, huge improvements to their defensive core, and it's showing so far. Good riddance, Ryan Graves and Damon Severson from last year. That paired with their growth in young players, I think they're going to be a formidable foe. That was the Caps' first game this year, and you could absolutely tell how different New Jersey was from that game. New Jersey ended up winning that game 5-3. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a team that I think can battle the Rangers for the top spot in the Metro. And that's probably the only team really that the Rangers would have to worry about. Carolina is one of these teams. I think they've dropped a bit from their previous success. I don't think they're going to be nearly as good as they've been the last two seasons. But again, Carolina got bit by the injury bug, just like a lot of teams did late last year. And that's going to be the key for them. But they're going to be kind of like the middle of the pack, status quo. They're going to make the playoffs, no problem. It's what they do when they get there is going to be the question. The Flyers are very, very much improved. Tortorella is getting his system in. He's actually being patient, and Philadelphia is being patient, which I applaud Philadelphia for being patient with Tortorella, because the history with his coaching is if you are patient with Tortorella, you get results. And clearly that's what's happening right now. They're going to be improved, but they possibly could be a wild card team, but I still think they might be just on the cusp of the playoffs. The Penguins' struggle will continue. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. Them and the Capitals, I believe, are the top two.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Right now. I don't know if the Caps had a lot of youth, so maybe that went down. But, they re-signed Sidney Crosby. They've got Malkin. They've got Letang. I mean, these are guys that are in their 30s, some in their mid 30s, and it's just and they added an older defenseman last year, which kind of had everybody scratching their heads, and he's still there this year. But Jari in net is the biggest concern for Pittsburgh. He is just not consistent enough, and that's what you need to make a deep run. Is you need a goaltender that can kind of take off. But I don't know about Jari. First couple of games, he was terrible. He's kind of turned it around since. The Penguins have won 4 in a row since. So we'll see what that goalie tandem in Pittsburgh is going to do. But Jari is kind of like the X factor, I think, for Pittsburgh, even being competitive towards the playoffs this year. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to talk about the Capitals. Columbus, we don't need to talk about. Columbus is going to be at the bottom of the Metro. We all know that. They're too young and too inexperienced, but they'll get there in the next few years, I think. But the Capitals so far are looking much better than they did last year at this point. And I like the addition of Thompson and net to be the tandem with Lindgren. I think that's going to be a really good fit for the Capitals. The great thing was Thompson went against his old team, the Vegas Golden Knights, on Tuesday and was sensational. Really did a great job. I didn't give the Caps I've been a Caps fan a long time. I did not give the Caps any opportunity in the last 2 games. I was like,
oh wow,
I think we're going to get blown out in both games. And then, surprise, they actually are adopting Carberry's system. And a lot of people last year were very impatient with Carberry. I think he's the right guy for the job. And I think he holds people accountable. I mean, this is a coach in the preseason when the Caps lost their first 2 preseason games. He had a closed-door meeting with the players and said, we are sucking right now, and we got to get better. And this is the preseason we're talking about. We're not even talking about games that matter, And so that's the sign of a good coach when he kind of says, hey, guys, just knock it off and let's play the game and let's play it the way that I want you to play it.
Yeah.
The interesting turn is Ovechkin is now at right wing instead of left wing. So we'll see what that does. So far, he has kind of struggled to get some decent shots off. I mean, he's gotten a few, but I think he just has to get used to that position. I mean, he is a right-handed shot, so the right wing should be a better natural fit for him. But he's gotten the assists, but he has no goals yet this year in the first 3 games. And tonight they play New Jersey, so we'll see what he can do there.
All right.
And that's at New Jersey, so we'll see how after the first game and the 2 games at home, how the Caps respond against New Jersey tonight. They're playing New Jersey quite a bit in the first 2 months, at least 4 times in the first 2 months. So that's going to be interesting. But and then Ovi, of course, is trying to climb the goal mountain of Wayne Gretzky. Does he do it this year? I'm leaning on the side of probably not. He'll get close. But if he gets on a tear, maybe he does. But he's going to have to start scoring, multi-goal games here to catch up to get it this year. But we'll see what happens. He will get it. He will eventually get it. There's no doubt about that. But the defensive improvement on the Capitals is great. I think the pairings right now are working out very well for them. Power play has been much improved, except for the last game when they went 0 for 5 against Dallas. But the first few games before that, they were 4th in the league out of the gate, which is an improvement from last year.
Yeah.
But the power play has to keep going. The biggest things, they lose Nicholas Backstrom and they lose TJ Oshie to long-term injured reserve. I mean, the Caps, it's amazing the NHL and how nice these professional teams are with putting these guys on injured reserve so they can collect their contract. In other professional leagues, they're like, "You're injured, get out of here."
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Not obligated. See you later.
But I don't expect either one of them to play. I mean, I'm TJ Oshie possibly, but I think Backstrom's career is over. They could be coaches though. I think they both be great coaches. Later on, but it does hurt the depth of the Caps to have both of them out. But I think it gives the young players an opportunity to shine. I mean, we have a 19-year-old on the Caps right now that they drafted last year.
Good.
And he made the team, and I was like, okay, this is what
Yeah.
this is what coaches in the past, including Laviolette, including Barry Trotz, those two coaches especially were all about the veterans, and they wanted to make sure the veterans had the opportunity to succeed. They were very gun shy about using the rookies. And so that's what I like about Carberry. He has that experience at Hershey, and he knows what some of these guys can do, and he knows where they fit in the
Okay.
scheme.
Yeah.
So I think the Caps are going to be a little bit better than people think. I don't think they're quite a playoff team yet. If now the last two games have impressed me a lot, beating the top two teams in the West, Dallas and Vegas, pretty impressive. But also, both of those games were in Washington. So my question is, can you beat them at their own barn?
Yeah.
That's the key. But if the goalies continue to play the way they have, and Braden Holtby has been consulting with the goaltenders, and I think that might turn into a full-time coaching job. It's nice to see Holtby back in working with the organization. So right now, I will say Caps are knocking on the door, but they're not quite there. So
Okay.
that's the Metro. So we move over to the West, Central Division. Dallas and Colorado, clearly the top two teams battling it out for position to win the Central. But Winnipeg's good again too, and Winnipeg it's probably going to be a 3-team race for the Central Division. But I've got Dallas is an early favorite for me. They just have the complete package, and I think that they're
That
going
was
to
my
go.
pick, my championship parlay.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Good. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. Nashville, I thought was going to be much improved in contending for a playoff spot, but we'll see if they can dig out of this hole. It's kind of like what Edmonton does every year, which Edmonton's doing again. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the team I think everybody's got to watch out for is the Utah Hockey Club, which
Ooh, Utah Hockey Club. All right.
terrible name, but
Better than Commanders.
the Utah Hockey Club, they used to be the Arizona Coyotes, which the Arizona Coyotes were an on the line playoff team for the last few seasons.
Yeah.
I think they make the playoffs this year, and they might be one of the highest scoring teams in the league.
Wow. Okay.
And they will definitely be, at the very least, a wild card team, and that could be a dangerous matchup for whoever gets them. And I'm very curious when they come to town to play the Caps. I definitely want to go see them play because they're an interesting group to watch. They've got a good mix of talent. Their goaltending's pretty good. And it keeps them in the games. And so far, they've been competitive in every game that they played. So that's going to be interesting. Chicago, the Blackhawks, and the St. Louis Blues, not quite there yet. I think both will be better than last season. And St. Louis was actually 2 points from a playoff spot last year. But I think they both will be better this year. I just don't think they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs. So that's the Central. The Pacific, to me, is the most competitive division in the entire league. You've got Vegas, you've got Vancouver, and you've got Edmonton that are all going to be fighting for this position just like they did last year. There's not a lot of room for error here, but Calgary is hot out of the gate. My question is, can they sustain it? They did the same thing last year, and they fizzled toward the playoffs. So Calgary is another team to watch out for. LA should be a playoff hockey team, but again, it's health of the team. And you've got those 4 teams ahead of them. There might be not enough room to have LA in the playoffs, but I think they're a quality hockey team. I think they can definitely make the playoffs. Seattle and Anaheim, they're still trying to get better, but again, they're just not there yet, especially Anaheim. Anaheim is going to struggle again this year. There could be a coaching change there pretty soon. Seattle, Dan Bylsma is the former Stanley Cup winning coach of the Penguins, is back in the saddle and goes from the Coachella Firebirds, which is their minor league hockey affiliate.
All right.
He gets the upgrade to NHL coach again. I think they need to be patient with him, and I think he's going to make Seattle a really good hockey team, but not this year. And San Jose could be historically bad again this year.
Ooh.
They have not made much improvement there, and I think, who is their GM? Joel Ward, I think, former Cap. I think that's who it is. He's got a tall order ahead of him. I just think there's a lot that needs to be fixed in San Jose. After Joe Thornton left, and retired, I think they're kind of struggling right now to find leadership there. So it's going to be interesting to see.
All right, but as of right now, early stages. We're almost just about 2 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
You're saying right now it's super early. What is it, 83 total games? Is that what it is?
It's 81, I think. Is
81. But the
82,
Dallas Stars
82,
are looking
yeah.
like the favorite in the very early.
I've got my pick and who's going to win. Do you want to do that? Yeah.
Okay.
I've got it already.
All right, I didn't know you were quite getting there yet. Okay.
Oh yes. Now I'm not going to go through the whole bracket. That's just ridiculous.
No. We got
out of the West. Out of the West, it's Dallas. I just think they're too good. And out of the East, I was going back and forth between New Jersey and the Rangers, and I just think the Rangers are too stacked with Shesterkin and goal. So I have Dallas, New York in the Stanley Cup Final. Another boring Stanley Cup Final, but there you go.
Okay. All right. But you stopped shy of making a pick.
Oh, I got a pick. Stars in 6.
All right. Stars in 6. Wow. That is funny, man, because I think last year you picked Edmonton like I did, right?
Yeah.
And they were 1 win away.
They were one win away. Freaking win away.
Yeah. So it's funny. Like, you know a lot more about the NHL. I just kind of look at how things went last year. I'm like, I gotta get a gut feeling, and I went with the Stars. So
I mean, there's some surprises so far. I mean, Colorado and Nashville are near the bottom so far in the Central, which is surprising to me that they're that. And Nashville's lost 4 in a row, which is unheard of. You've got Calgary at the top of the Pacific. You've got Edmonton struggling out of the gate again. They're 2-3-0 to start the year. And then you got the Seattle Kraken that's kind of shooting out of the gate. They're third in the Pacific right now. And in the East, of course, Tampa Bay is surprising to me. They're right behind. They're 1 point behind the Florida Panthers in the Atlantic. Detroit, however, is a surprise. They're at the bottom of the Atlantic. And the Flyers are kind of, struggling out of the gate. First 4 games played, they've got 3 points, and they're at the bottom of the Metropolitan. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Yeah. Long season ahead. It's all, we go all the way until May in the playoffs start. Is that right?
Yeah. It's, I think, end of April. Yeah.
End of April. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You ready for a little devil's advocate?
Sure.
All right. Did you have an opportunity to look over the topics this time? Because last time I just threw them at you. You didn't know what was coming, but
I took a little gander. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, even if you're agreeing with the statement at hand, the whole point is You're supposed to give up just a little minor argument as to why it may be incorrect. So let's play a little devil's advocate. Daniel sitting in as the devil once again here. The Ravens, they are the most talented team in the league right now. What do you got to say about that, Daniel?
I say they're not, but
and that sounds like an honest opinion too.
I don't believe that. No,
who is then? Who are you putting up against the Ravens as the most talented team?
Let me look at my notes real quick here. You know, no notes.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course you can look at your notes, but you just got to have them ready to go. All right.
Kansas City's in the back pocket of the refs. We all know that, but
that's not talent. That's luck.
I think Detroit is probably, to me, after watching them dismantle Dallas, is a complete football team, offense and defense. Minnesota, they haven't. I mean, we'll see when they get to the meat of their schedule how good they're going to be, and they could be good too. I mean, Sam Darnold's done incredible for them so far, and we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, the Ravens, they kind of struggled out of the gate. You know, they had to find their footing a little bit, and they're starting to roll a little bit. But they got a really tough game this week, and we'll see where they're at. Tampa Bay's another good football team, but I don't think they're one. I don't know if they're the best, if you want to say that. But to me, my argument is I think there are better teams than the Ravens.
Okay, I was saying most talented.
Most talented?
You can be most talented and still not necessarily be the best. I know it sounds crazy, but it's possible because you could have a shit head coach, for instance. You know, just bad play calling all around, bad scheming, what have you. But I don't know. And I know I'm fresh off of a loss to the Ravens in Baltimore, so. But I just thought that was a fun one to throw out. Let's move right along to. Speaking of those Chiefs that you brought up, the Chiefs are the most boring 5-0 team in NFL history. What do you got to say about that?
When you have Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, you know.
Not doing it for me.
Not doing it for me either. I'll tell you. You know, it's like, okay, she's there. That's great. Wave to the crowd. You know. I think, I mean, it's. To me, they're better lucky than good. You know, they've had a couple of really lucky breaks to get these wins that they've gotten. A lot of them have been close. You know, the one toe in the on the end zone against Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know, the pass interference call. You know,
the non-pass interference call.
The
non-face mask call. Yeah, the list goes on and on. But come on, Devil's Advocate, you're supposed to tell me why they're not the most boring 5-0 team.
Why they're not? Oh well,
I'm saying they are.
Patrick Mahomes.
Sounds like you're agreeing with me.
Well, I kind of do, but I'm not doing this very well. Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback in the NFL. You know, he keeps them in games. You know, Travis Kelce's starting to get going for them. You know, they're starting to put different schemes together for him, and he's producing more. So, you know, but, you know, the Chiefs defense, you know, is keeping them in these games. So, you know, boring is okay for Kansas City if they're undefeated. This is
true. This is true. Yeah. How about this one? Aaron Rodgers is done. And I left out my next one note here, but Aaron Rodgers is done and should retire after this season.
Nah, I think he's got more in the tank.
Okay.
You know, I think he came back a little too quickly, but I think he still feels that he's going to have more to prove. And if his finger's on the pulse at the Jets organization, as I think there is, he's going to try to find some talent in the draft and free agency that they can mold a team around him. And they tried to do that a couple seasons ago when he, you know, got hurt on the fourth play of the season. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's got at least one more, if not two more seasons left in him. I think he just feels like he still has something to prove.
Okay, fair enough. The Lions, they cannot reach the Super Bowl, Daniel, without Aiden Hutchinson. Big loss for them on defense last week.
Next man up. As Kirby Smart at Georgia says, next man up. It's a big loss for them. I'm not gonna lie. That's a tough loss for them. But what a freak incident that was.
It was. It was scary.
Yeah,
knees.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he can recover from that. Though there's some people that are saying it's a tough injury to recover from. So hopefully he comes back. Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, I think the Lions are going to probably look for somebody to trade with, maybe to fill that void. But so far after they played a little bit against the Cowboys without him and seemed to do okay. But again, that's the Cowboys, so we can't really gauge that yet. Yeah. But I think they'll be all right. Their offense can carry them a little bit. So.
How about the Cleveland Browns? Dead and buried. They're not going to the playoffs. They should trade Myles Garrett right now.
What is his trade value? I guess is the
better
question.
Than letting his contract run out and let him walk for free. So get what you
can. You can see that, but of course, the owner in Cleveland is way too prideful and unless he gets a lot for him, I don't think he's going to be letting him go. But that's such a weird. It's a precarious situation in Cleveland for him. Because clearly Cleveland's 1-5 and circling the drain, like you've said. It's like, what's the motivation to play? Well, we have a year. It's a contract year next year, so there's motivation there. So we'll see what he can do, but it's a tough situation for him for sure.
He'll make out wherever he goes. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah,
get the value for him now. Send him to a contender where that guy can get his goddamn ring because Myles Garrett deserves it.
Yeah.
The Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys will all have new head coaches at the start of next season. What do you got to say about that?
Jerry Jones seems to be. So I really don't know with Mike McCarthy what the fascination is there. I've never considered him a great head coach. Jerry Jones seems to think he is. I'm not. I think he's gonna. I think the fan base is gonna pressure him into getting rid of him. The only way the Eagles change coaches is if they don't make the playoffs, and I don't see that. I see the Eagles still making the playoffs at this point. And the Giants probably out of all three of those is probably going to be the one that goes. If I had to guess, it's just the Giants seem to be spinning in mud. They're not making any progress and they're not getting any worse. But the Giants fans demand more than mediocrity. So
Giants are one of those teams like Redskins in years past so many times that they find ways to lose games. The Eagles and Cowboys have both thrown up duds a number of times already this season. I truly, honestly do believe all three of those teams will have new head coaches at the start of next season. The only team I could see kicking their coach to the curb mid-season is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that there's just a lot of animosity there between the head coach, the ownership, the fans, and he's, if they have another one of those games where they just look ill-prepared, to say the least, and get embarrassed like they did in Tampa, then he's going to be gone after that, because I don't think he's the glue holding that team together. I could think they could easily produce more without him. He's not one of those coaches to me. How about this one? Last but not least, certainly not least, Daniel, Texas will beat Georgia tonight by double digits. What do you got to say about that?
No. It is watching game day this morning is Texas a love fest for sure. Being a Georgia fan, I'm used to being the underdog, but this is a make or break game for Georgia, for a lot of reasons. If they lose to Texas tonight, they have no room for error the rest of the way to make the playoff. Can they still make the playoff if they lose tonight? Yes, they can. But then you've got to you got to go to Ole Miss and beat them there. You got to go play Tennessee at home and beat them there, and then run the table in the rest of your games. And they can make the playoffs without going to the SEC championship. On the flip side of that, they beat Texas tonight. They're right back in the saddle, and they are. They're on the right trajectory path if they beat Texas tonight. It's going to be a great game. Everybody's talking about Texas, the number one offense in the country. They have not faced a defense like Georgia's, and we'll see how they react to that. I mean, Ewers is going to have a good game for Texas. Carson Beck's going to have a perfect game against Texas. He's been struggling a little bit this year. I mean, Georgia last week against Mississippi State didn't look so great, but they still won. But this is the type of game that Kirby Smart loves. He loves being the underdog, and he loves that extra motivation going into a road game in the SEC. And this is Texas's first big test at home in the SEC. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a great game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I would be very surprised if it was. It's going to be great college football, which is what it's all about this time of year.
I mean, I do disagree with you in that I do think Georgia have to win this game. I think if they lose, they're out of the playoff running. I think that there's too many other teams that could squeak in over the two lost teams. And Georgia lost to Alabama, which at the time you're saying, okay, they lost to Bama.
Well, that will hurt.
Alabama is week after week looking like they're regressing. They're probably not as good as everyone thought. So
if Alabama beats Tennessee, then that loss looks better. That's the key to that. I mean, yeah, losing to Vanderbilt was just a freak win. I mean, the all the stars aligned on that one. I mean, that's a once in at least 10, 20 years that you get an upset like that. But it's like I said, it's DeBoer versus Nick Saban, and this is the DeBoer era. This isn't Nick Saban's era. This isn't the Nick Saban Alabama. So, but I mean, Georgia, I think with 12 teams in the playoff, and with the quality of wins that Georgia has, I think that still gives them an edge even if they lose tonight. But it's going to be tougher for sure.
And it depends on how they lose too.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to our rapid fire pick'ems right now.
All right.
All right, and we do already have one pick on the board here. Did you make your pick prior to Thursday night's game, Daniel?
I did, and I'm embarrassed because I picked the Saints.
Oh, you picked the Saints. Wow.
Shows how much I know.
Yeah, I was fairly comfortable about picking the Broncos here, given the injuries to the Saints, especially with Derek Carr still missing and Rattler getting his first start.
I thought Rattler was going to shine, or
maybe he got his first start on Sunday, but either way, he wasn't overly impressive, and they have no O-line, so I felt good about the Broncos defense taking care of business, which they did.
Yeah, and I thought Rattler was going to be much better than he was. The NFL's got to do something, and the Saints have got to do something. In the third quarter of that game, Denver was blowing out the Saints, and Rattler essentially quit. He just took his helmet off. He was done. And there's no room for that in the NFL. You're a professional football player. Your job is to be the quarterback of your team, to lead your offense, and he acts like a spoiled little brat.
Yep.
Johnny
Manziel 2.0 over
here. Exactly. Hit the nail right on the head. But, he really has hurt his stock. And I think the Saints are going to look to get rid of him at the end of if not sooner, the end of the year, they're going to cut him.
Yeah, I mean, if he really did quit, again, I did not watch the entire game. You did. I did not see the quitting, but if that is true, as you say, and I trust you're right,
Well,
why the hell would you? Why would you trot him out there again? I'd
well,
say
Al
it's
Michaels was just
rough.
beside himself. I mean, he just couldn't believe what was going on.
Yeah.
And Kirk Herbstreit was the same way. They were just like, "What is he doing?"
Uh,
And
all right. Well, let's hit that rapid fire button. Play the music. We got to fly through these because we are cutting close to our time limit
yeah.
here. So, all right, New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars playing their second consecutive game in London. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know why I picked this team too many times already. They have proven to just be absolutely horrendous. And Drake May was quite impressive last week, but I'm going with the Jags because I'm just like, they got to win at least one more game this year. And if they're going to get it, it's going to be against the Pats. Who you got?
I like there was a joke going around that Jacksonville's still in London because they can't win out. So
yeah, there you go.
But I picked Jacksonville too, believe it or not.
all right. We're both going to look like fools if they lose because it's again. Why do you pick this team?
It's an absolute
both these are the worst. Yeah. Between them and the Carolina Panthers, they're the worst teams in the league. How about the Seattle Seahawks headed to Atlanta to take on the Falcons? For me, it's an easy one. I'm going with the Falcons. They're red hot. Seahawks look like the Seahawks I was expecting to see when the season began, and I think that 3-0 start was a farce. So going with the Falcons to keep the hot streak going.
Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins is starting to find his receivers in Atlanta, and the running game is starting to get going. So I picked the Falcons to win fairly easily over the Seattle Seahawks.
So far we agree. Tennessee Titans headed to Buffalo to take on the 4-2 Bills. The Titans have had a rough go of it. They have shown to have a strong defense, but I think, just like 99% of everybody on ESPN picking the Bills, I'm going with the Bills. I just can't see them letting up this game because that's the type of loss. If you lose this game as the Buffalo Bills, then the season's it's going to be a rough rest of the year for you. So clearly going with the Bills. I imagine you are too.
Yeah, I got the Bills winning big in this one. Just Tennessee is, like you said, the defense keeps them in games, but they
have no offense.
They've got a bust in Will Levis. I mean, that is just a bust of a quarterback right now for them.
When the Levis break, got nowhere to go. The Cincinnati Bengals, they're headed to Cleveland, take on the Browns. Got to go with the Bengals here. I think the Bengals are going to go on a bit of a tear. I know a lot of people have been saying it's a popular opinion, but I could see them win their next 4 to 5 games straight. What better way to start off that win streak than against the lowly Cleveland Browns? Give me the Bengals. Sounds like you agree with me there.
2 words, Joe Burrow. That's all.
Damn straight. Joe Cool himself. Houston Texans headed to Lambeau to take on the Packers. This is one of those games of the week. 5-1 Texans against the 4-2 Packers. Give me the Packers with the home field advantage, getting the win, even though they are technically underdogs in this one, as far as I know. So I am not actually looking at the actual, the odds or whatnot, but I believe they are underdogs, and I can see that the majority of people are going with the Texans. But I'm going Pack. Where are you going?
I'm going with the Texans.
All right.
They're looking good. They're
finally
looking good
disagree
right
on
now.
one.
Yeah.
We're not going to disagree on this one, I don't think. The Miami Dolphins and the Indianapolis Colts, although this one is kind of a coin flip. Miami at 2-3, Colts at 3-3. Most people, popular vote, are going with the Colts. I'm going with the Colts. I just think the Colts are more of a stable team right now. I don't know what's going on in Miami, but I don't think it's good, and I think it's going to be a rough rest of the year for the Dolphins. So give me the Colts.
Yeah, the Colts are starting Richardson this week, so that's going to be interesting to see.
Are you sure?
He is, 100%, yeah.
Okay, well, now I don't really like my pick. But,
so I flipped mine to Miami just for that reason. So.
Okay, I'm sticking with the Colts. I still think Dolphins are just, even with Richardson in, you only have to score 16 points to beat the Dolphins.
Well, we're going to see what this head coach is made of in Miami. I don't put much stock in him right now.
We'll see. Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, another game of the week. 4-1 Detroit, 5-0 Vikings. The Vikings are due for a friggin' loss. Yep. I think they're not quite as good as their record shows, even though who was it, Bill Parcells that said you are what your record is. Give me the Lions though. Calming down the Minnesota faithful in their home and getting their second consecutive win. or maybe it's going to be the third or whatever.
No.
But give me the Lions getting to 5-1 and bringing the Vikings to 5-1.
Yeah, I've got the Lions in that one too. I think Minnesota. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be one of the better games of the day. But yeah, like I said, I really like Detroit right now. I think they're a complete football team.
I like that you like them. The Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Football Giants. 3-2 Eagles, 2-4 Giants. Of course, 90% popular vote going with the Eagles. Give me the Giants. Not only beating the Eagles, but beating them comfortably in front of their home crowd. Damn right. Bold prediction. You heard it here first.
I think Philly's going to win. I just think, unless Daniel Jones has a decent game, I think Philly's going to win it. Even an ugly win, I think, for them. But I'm going with Philly.
I think this one, it being just such an important divisional matchup, this is one where the Giants don't shoot themselves in the foot. Yes, if they keep up what they've been doing and keep finding a way to lose, they have no chance. But you could say that against anybody. But yeah, I think they stay on a straight and narrow at least for the longevity of this game and get the win against those stinky Beagles. The Las Vegas Raiders and the LA Rams. Not a matchup really that you're going to highlight on your calendar here, but the 2-4 Raiders and the 1-4 Rams. For whatever reason, Rams are getting 87% of the popular pick here, and I'm one of those people, but I don't like it. I think this is really anyone's game, but Rams were my Super Bowl pick for some stupid reason, so I got to pick.
I know, right?
Give me the Rams.
I've got the Rams too. I think they're due for a win. So Vegas
at some point, right? I mean,
Vegas is just lack of consistency. I think there is kind of they're doing there. But
here it is. Here's my game of the week: Carolina Panthers. They're coming to Landover, Maryland, to take on the Washington Commanders, who are sitting at a surprising 4-2, coming off that loss against the Ravens. But the only two teams they have lost to are legit contenders in the Bucs and the Ravens. Panthers are 1-5. Only 2% are picking the Panthers. That must just be 2% all Panthers fans. Give me the Redskins. There's no way they're going to lose this game. Mark my words, because here's why. If they lose this game, then the rest of the season is going to be rough. And these first 6 games were just all fool's gold. So I don't see that happening. I think what we've seen is legit, and they're going to handle business at home in the Burgundy of Gold against the Carolina Panthers.
I think they're going to make the defensive adjustments that kind of did them in against Baltimore last week. I think their defense is going to be pretty strong. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I think they win by at least 3 scores.
I like that. I'll take it. Panthers are allowing 30-plus points per game, or 29.7. They're allowing 30 points per game, their defense. Kansas City Chiefs, 49ers, this should be a good one. You know what? To hell with the Chiefs. Give me the 49ers, because the Chiefs aren't going to go undefeated. 49ers got it. They have to have some big win at some point. This is week 7. Give me the 49ers getting the win at home against the undefeated Chiefs. Again, Chiefs not that impressive at 5-0 for me. Sorry. Boring.
I know McCaffrey is close to coming back. I don't think he's quite there yet. I think he still has a week or 2 left on injured reserve. But Kittle has been stepping up in McCaffrey's absence for offensive production. But I just think the Chiefs have what it takes to go to 6-0. So I'm picking. It's going to be a good game, though. It'll be a close game, but I picked the Chiefs.
New York Jets headed to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Give me the Steelers. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I think the Jets are they're the New York jokes, and the Steelers defense is legit. Give me another 3 interceptions to add to the Aaron Rodgers tally.
Yeah.
Steelers dominate and beat the Jets.
I think Aaron Rodgers' true colors are about to show up when he starts to be on a 2-5, 2-6, 2-7. He might lose quite a few games in a row here, and I think the train's going to derail in New York. So, give me Pittsburgh. I think they're going to win at least by 2 scores.
Ravens flying high right now. They are on a 4-game heater. They are head to another 4-win team, though, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They will be playing away but I think they keep the heater alive. I think this is a tight game, though. It comes down to the wire. It's all about the 2-minute offense at the end of the day for the Ravens, but this is one I would definitely want to see. And this is actually the first of 2 Monday night matchups. So we will be seeing it. So give me the Ravens getting the win over the Bucs and getting to 5-2.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be one of the better games of the week. We finally have a good Monday Night Football game. It's been a few weeks since we've had a really good Monday Night Football game. I think Baltimore's going to win, but it's going to be close.
And the not-so-good Monday Night Football game, the Chargers and the Cardinals, that's one, don't do it. Don't watch that one.
That's why it's on ESPN Plus,
I'm going with the Chargers just simply because I don't really care. And secondly, I think the Cardinals they're confused right now. They look like a team that's, that doesn't know what's going on. So they're kind of spiraling. And the Chargers are the Chargers. Like, they're not necessarily spiraling. They're just, they're blah. But, at least you know what you're going to get. So give me the Chargers. I'm saying like a fucking, I'll say 20-13 win.
Your internet's not dragging. It's how bad the game's actually going to be.
Oh, I dragging a little bit.
Well, no.
No,
it's on ESPN Plus, and it's one of those great experiments the NFL's trying to see how many people will desperately purchase ESPN Plus for a football game.
Even if I were a Chargers or Cardinals fan, I wouldn't purchase ESPN Plus for that.
If you had the Chiefs, if you had the 49ers or any of those big name teams, you might have success with this. But to have Los Angeles and Arizona, it's like, I'll watch the highlights. That's fine. But give me the Chargers. The Cardinals they're kind of tanking right now and struggling and. I think
Marvin Harrison Jr. is still out, right? He's got some injury.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a boring football game to watch. So, yeah.
There you have it. Week 7 picks in the books. Let's get to the Brash Parlay.
Say make money, money, make money, money, money. Make money, money, make money, money, money.
All right, and I pulled out my Brash Parlay on my phone here because it was going to take me way too long to do it on the laptop. So I went ahead, did this thing through FanDuel. I'm switching it up a little bit, Daniel. I typically like to mix it up, overs, unders, of course, point spreads, this player for this many touchdowns, bloopity blah. But no, I'm going all anytime touchdowns because I've seen the sports junkies who I like to listen to do that, and they've been winning. These actually seem to hit a little bit more. I went a little crazy picking 6 for $10. So I might shrink that down a tad depending on how this one turns out. But same game, I'm going with Jaden Daniels as an anytime touchdown, so he's going to get that run. He was stopped short of doing that against the Ravens. Deontay Johnson's their go-to guy in Carolina, and everybody's top receiver scores a touchdown against our very leaky secondary. So that one is at a plus 372 because it's a same game. Demario Douglas, look out for Demario Douglas. He is looking like he's going to be the top target for Drake May this season. He had about 8 targets, 6 receptions, and a touchdown last week. I think he continues his touchdown streak in London against the Jags. Demario Douglas at plus 370. Jamar Chase, come on. Against the Browns, he's definitely going to score a plus 105. Justin Jefferson, another one. And, I know the Lions, yes, it's their defense is decent, but Justin Jefferson, he's going to get one. I think he's been held without a touchdown the last couple of weeks, which is surprising. So he's at minus 120. And then finally, to see things off, Derrick Henry, he keeps his touchdown streak going. Nobody can stop him. He's going to get a touchdown against the Bucs, minus 195. So little tiny $10 bet at a plus 12,538 odds will pay out $1,263.89. Of course, that's, counting the $10 that I put in there. So go ahead, place it now. I feel good about it. Get your $1,200 for this 6 anytime touchdown parlay. And that is episode 68. We did it, Daniel. Thank you again, my friend, for stepping in. And it looks like we're going to be having you a lot more here on Brash Sports, as long as these contract negotiations are going on. So
we got to get a mediator involved. It looks like.
Well, you know, hey, I'm staying out of it. It's got nothing to do with me. All right. But all right, buddy. Thank you again.
All right.
And, you know,
thanks for having me.
Go Bulldogs and hail to the Redskins.
Go Dogs.
All right. Later, buddy. Peace.
Touch them at the point score. Fight on, till you have won. Sons of